Welcome to this episode of the Balancing Busy podcast. I am Leah Remillet, and today we are talking all about organizing our homes. How do we organize different areas of our homes? What do we do when a family member in our home is not as organized as us, and so much more. Today, my guest is Jessica Litman, known as the Organized Mama and recognized by people as an organizing and DIY expert. She has been encouraging families to not only embrace their homes, but also how to incorporate fun and easy home organizational habits that every family member can do. Jessica has a podcast, Organizing Tune-Ups, and she has a book, which I purchased beforehand because I realized, oh my gosh, she has a book. I should grab it. And if you are looking on YouTube, like there are all these tabs. If you're not, trust me, there's all these tabs. I was so surprised how helpful I found this book. Home Sweet Organized Home. She is amazing. You can purchase this book anywhere books are sold. I grabbed mine on Amazon, and I'll have the links in the show notes. But here is the funniest thing that I am going to share with you. So I record these intros and these outros after we do our interviews. And I get on the interview, and I'm like, hello, it's so nice to meet you. And she's like, we have actually met. And I'm like, whoops, wait, we have? So it turns out that she was an attendee at Inspired Retreat, and I was a speaker there. And so that was where we met years and years and years and years ago. And here's the most amazing thing. We got reconnected because we are both speaking at Mom 2.0 Summit in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, both of us speaking on organization, which is so fun. So that was so amazing to get reconnected, and we just had a blast talking about organization. This is literally something I could talk about for hours and hours and hours. You know it. So without any more intro, let's jump in and start getting right into it on how we can organize our homes with just, a little bit more ease, a little bit simpler. So let's jump in. Jessica, I am so excited you're here. So I just finished introducing everybody to you. I have your book. I'm so excited to talk with you. I just can't even believe that we met so long ago, and I'm so glad you reminded me and told me. That's so fun, and that we're gonna get to see each other again because we're both gonna be at Mom 2.0 speaking, yes, which is so amazing. So you are the Organized Mama.
Yes.
You help us get organized, which I'm so excited for this conversation. You don't even know. So will you start by kind of explaining as people can see if they happen to be watching the YouTube, I have so many tabs in this book. I thought it was so good. And one of the things that you talked about right off the bat was that we need to identify what organized means to us. So will you talk me through that?
Yes. Oh, I think this is such a big thing that we really need to look at because we see so many beautiful images on Instagram, on Pinterest, but then translating that to real life, 3D in 4 walls instead of just the 2 you usually see online, really needs to be clear for you. And you really need to identify what that actually means and looks like. So, I was doing in-home organizing for clients back pre-COVID. And I had one particular client who, she just had collected a lot of things. So her goal for us working with her and organizing her was just to be able to see her floor. She didn't want stuff on the floor of her room. And that was her organized. And I loved that. She was crystal clear on the direction she wanted to go. She wanted to walk into rooms, not have things piled up on the floor. And that was organized for her. And so I think we've kind of gotten away from the idea of organized looks different to everyone. So you need to get clear on what that means before you even touch anything, buy a bin, any of those things. You need to get clear on what it looks like in your home for real life.
Okay, so how can we get more clear on that? Are there any questions or any things that we can check in with ourselves that are going to help us recognize what our version of organized is versus maybe like a Pinterest version of organized that isn't realistic for us personally, but we're trying to hold on to?
Yes. So walk around your house and see an area, a drawer, something that you say, this is organized. I can keep this tidy. I don't have to like overthink it. It's easy. You feel calm. And like that's your version of organized. It's easy. You don't really have to think about it. And you can feel your body change. Like you get calm, you get like relaxed. And so that's organized. So it might not be, the gorgeous, it might not like look like Pinterest, and that is fine, because a lot of times, and I try and like remind, my followers, this is like, sometimes I have to create a pretty picture for a brand because that's what, they're requesting, because that image evokes an emotion that you want to replicate. So that's what the brand wants, but you have to decide what's actually going to work in your home. So really getting clear on that is going to help you so much throughout your entire organizing process.
I think it's so interesting identifying what does help us feel calm and what doesn't. Can I tell you my favorite organized area in my entire house? It is my spice drawer. That thing makes it makes me so happy. And it's so funny because the story behind that spice drawer is that I had been seeing those cute labels you see on Instagram with the jars forever. And I felt like that is frivolous or, whatever to buy them. And then I finally just one day bought them. They came. I remember being like so excited, transferring all of my spices with the little funnel it came with into the cute little jars and putting all the labels on. The kids wanted to help, and I was letting them help put the spices in, but they did not get to help putting the labels on because I was like, you cannot have a crooked label. I will be so disappointed. And so like setting them all up. And then I even went as far as alphabetizing the spices and put them back in the drawer. And so there's a couple things that I think about. Number one, I waited so long because I was telling these stories about why it, it was more than I should do. I think sometimes that comes down to, I grew up with a mom who organized everything in reusable boxes, shoe boxes, little jewelry boxes. That was organization. That's how she organized it. It was constantly like, oh, we can use this for something. And she would use that to organize. So again, I caught myself feeling a little bit of guilt around buying like the beautiful acrylic bins in the beginning. And yet I love calm. I love, I'm very much about like removing any labels that aren't needed. Like I just I want to be able to have less distraction. And so recognizing how much that helps me. The other thing I've noticed is like, if we go back to that spice drawer is, okay, so I haven't really been able to maintain alphabetized spice drawer, right? And so maybe I need to recognize, and maybe we all need to recognize in our like journey of organization, not everything we try is going to be perfect, and there's like an ideal version, and then there's a version maybe a step back. Like I still have this beautiful spice drawer that I love opening, but every once in a while I do open it and I'm like, why is the curry next to the garlic? Those are not the same letters, right?
Right.
Right? And like, it's okay. It's still a better version. So how do we create those lasting habits? Because I'm like, I have been able to keep that one area like pretty dang organized, but I'll be honest, there's a lot of other areas I try to organize, we get it all organized, but it doesn't stay organized. My pantry, oh my gosh, that is one of them. So how do we create those lasting habits?
So like you're saying, it's a journey and it's a habit. So you open up your spice drawer, and you might have come to the realization it's not going to be alphabetized, but it's still going to like look pretty when I open it, right? So we have to go through that journey and create a new habit around the pantry. and just focusing on like, okay, every time I do go grocery shopping, I'm going to do a quick reset. And that reset is just remove the stuff that doesn't belong. Or, like the spice drawer is an easy example of a quick reset, right? You're cooking, you're waiting for water to boil, boom, 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 you alphabetize the spices like really fast, right? Like that's a quick reset, just something you can do while you're waiting for something else. So creating those quick resets. One thing with like the fridge, when you go, before you put anything new from the grocery store, just quickly like go through and like, as you're removing stuff from the bag, take out the things that, either like the leftovers that if you're anything like my family, like they leave little remnants of like leftovers in the fridge. And it's like, okay, well, it's weekly grocery shopping. So I'm just going to clear that out. And it's a quick reset, but it's a habit you have to set every time you stock the fridge, every time you look at the pantry. Those quick things are going to make a huge impact because you're taking small action, big reward.
Okay, so I'm looking at a space and I'm like, I want to organize this, whether we're talking about the pantry, the junk drawer, the coat closet, the refrigerator. I have a couple of questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to start with like, where do we start? Like, is my method of like yank everything out and like put it all out on the floor and then I'm like, wow, this is a lot. Okay. Yes. And then I start, systematically working my way. Is that like the best way? Or what would you suggest? Like how do we, I definitely think you're going to say go area by area, but like how do we break this down? So
there are two ways to do this because not everyone can see the giant pile and actually take action. Okay. That's why a lot of people hire organizers because when you pull everything out, it's so overwhelming, right? So if you are able to invest in an organizer, then that's the method that they're going to use. Pull everything out and then put things back. If you're able to handle it, do that method. But if you're not, that's okay. And you are completely like, you can still get organized. You can do it like space by space, drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf. But use like Post-it notes or like paper or something that you can leave to kind of take inventory so you know what's what. So the best example of this is your kitchen, right? So if taking everything out of your kitchen to reorganize it just gives you hives and you're just like so stressed about it. I've had so many followers just like, I can't do this. I can't take everything out. So then open up one cabinet. Take everything out of there, decide what needs to stay, and focus on what's staying. And then I say declutter, but that just means remove it from the space if it doesn't fit. And then put the stuff that needs to stay back, put a Post-it note on that cabinet, what's in there, and then you can move on to the next one. And so if you pull something out and you're like, oh, I have another stack of mixing bowls, but I know I have other mixing bowls over here, you're able to see that inventory as you go through without taking everything out. And so I found that there is a good chunk of people that benefit from this method of organizing as well. And when it comes to like, where do you start? Start in your bedroom. Always.
Really? Okay, tell me why. Why should we start in our bedroom?
Okay, so in order to truly organize, declutter, and really think through the entire process, you need a good night's sleep. If you don't get a good night's sleep, your brain is not able to process that information. It's not able to go into REM sleep, and you're going to be way more irritated in, just life in general. So start with your bedroom always. I know it's like nobody sees my bedroom, but you have to start with your bedroom. Remove papers and work documents and all of that kind of stuff. Really keep it zen in there. You will see a huge difference as you start to go through more areas of your home when your bedroom is actually tidy and organized.
I love that. I was thinking like, yes, I love the idea of starting in your bedroom because number one, it should be your retreat. But number two, you'll never get to it otherwise, right?
Exactly.
Because we're always going to work on the other areas that are visible. But like, I always joke that it is amazing how good I am at cleaning the house right after someone has surprised stopped by, right? Like that's when I'm great
Yep.
at like getting the house clean is I'm like,
Yeah.
and I've been embarrassed. Okay. Or, you know, like I'm really good at organizing that area when somebody opened and saw inside of it. And that's the point that gets me. So I'm noticing as you're saying this, I'm like, yeah, my style is area by area. Even within the kitchen, I'm like, I pull all the pots and pans out and I organize those. And that might be the only thing I do that day. Mm-hmm. And then another day I'll come and I'll do a different area. And I can see that wouldn't work for everyone depending on, you know, your level of chaos that you feel like you're in.
Exactly.
There might be too much overlap. And so you got to pull out more to then put it all back in the right spots. Okay. So how do you feel about containers? So basically there are like a million of them. And it's such a trend on Instagram. And I'm not going to lie, you guys, sometimes I see these cute videos and I love watching them because I think they're darling. But I'm like, that is so not practical. Who on earth can like do that? Who actually can grocery shop by color and not by like the food that you eat? So tell me your thoughts about containers.
My thoughts about containers are that they are tools to organize. They are not the start. They are not a necessity. They are just a tool. So if your version of organized is putting everything in clear containers, taking everything out, and you can maintain that, then do it. I am here for it. If your version of organized does not involve any of that, do it. I am here for it. I am very much, bins are tools. They aren't that you should never start with organizing with a bin, ever. Start by removing everything from that doesn't belong in that area. So if you're doing kitchens, just because we've been talking about spice stores and kitchens, you're cleaning out your kitchen and you notice you have, you know, like phone chargers and you have batteries and you have all these things that don't belong, remove them, right? Like remove them from your space. Just put them at like the edge of your like kitchen door, like make a pile. You'll deal with that stuff later. It's not important right now. And then you figure out where everything should go within the space. Then if any organizing tools could help you keep things that way, that's when you should look, see, and also work within your budget. Like we don't need to be living in like this high consumption like area. I've seen so many people have like these beautiful pantries that they can't keep organized. So they have these bins that they spent a lot of money on behind boxes from Costco because that's what their kids just keep going through. So bins can become clutter too. So really focus on removing the stuff that does not need to stay in that area, putting things away, like where it makes sense, and then seeing if there's any organizing tools that could help you keep it organized. So it's like the third step in the whole process.
So do you buy the bins after you've figured out what you have, or do you buy the bins ahead of time, but then know that you can like return and adjust?
I never buy the bins ahead of time. I always say buy them after, like live with the space first, because after you organize, you might find like, hey, this drawer is not working for anyone in my family. So I don't want to spend money on something that in the end I'm going to have to change. And then I just spent money on something that in the end we're not going to use. So make sure it works and then look at things that'll fit your space, fit your stuff.
Okay, so how do we get our family on board with our organization goals? So
yes.
So, you know, when you have someone who is disorganized and they're not on board, right? Like there's it's one thing when it's your kids because you can like, you know, you can mom up and be like, too bad, do it. But there can be a lot of like just friction if it's hard for them. It's really hard when it's your spouse or your partner who's, you know, not super organized. So how do we broach this?
Oh, this is a big one. This could be like 3 episodes in one, just to say. So start by looking at it as, 'cause I don't believe people are disorganized. I believe that their view of organizing is different. So their view might look to you like it's disorganized, but they might feel like it's more organized. My poor husband gets thrown under the bus a lot of times because I'm like, I want people to know, like, I lived through this too. He is so clean, but his organization skills are not up to par with mine. I framed it like that. So I set up some habits that I have everyone in the family do. And then I have habits that I do on top of that so that I make sure things are organized for my liking, but they kind of have the low bar requirement necessary. So like in our family room, I hate, at the end of the night, I'm like, I don't want blankets on the floor. I don't want pillows on the floor. I don't want books. I don't want games. You have to get all of that up off the floor. So everyone helps and they do that. Once they all leave, then I put the pillows how I like it. I put the blankets how I like it. I stack the books. But their goal, like what they're responsible for, is very minimal. Nothing can be on the floor. So they have to put the pillows on the couch. But it's that balance that we as the organized person have to kind of like lower our bar for what they can do. And then we can add our expectation on top of that, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'm just thinking about how maybe we need to be careful that in our zeal for a Pinterest-worthy, organized looking room, which, let's be honest, on Pinterest or on Instagram is two-dimensional. You're just looking at one small section.
Yes.
Maybe we need to recognize that what we really want is a space that feels calm,
yes,
peaceful, really good. And if we're having freakouts because people aren't putting pillows correctly, we are missing the point, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's not happening.
Exactly. And like, organizing is a skill that we have to teach our kids. So I had this client, she, lovely person, but sent her college son off to college with these like little note cards, basically like all the life skill things that I'm like, okay, he should know by the time he's 18. They were like, you know, oh, if you need Tylenol, take this much Tylenol. This is how you do laundry. All of these little things that I'm like, these are things we have to teach our kids. We have to teach them how to fold clothes. We have to teach them how to do laundry. We have to teach them how to keep their room tidy, because if you have a roommate, if you're in a college dorm, if you're even in an apartment with like somebody else, you need to know these things. So really putting into perspective that as moms, we need to make sure that we are teaching them and allowing them that space to kind of figure out what does organized mean to them. Because we now are thinking about, okay, well, what does it mean to me? We can start with them now so they don't have to like worry about organizing when they're older.
I love that. Being someone who happens to have an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old and has one that will be heading off to college, we are literally having these conversations all the time. And we've been having them for years where I'm like, you are going to be so grateful because you're going to be such a good roommate because you know how to, you know, cook and clean these all. And then I'll be honest, we also have some other conversations where I'm like, you are going to have some very frustrated roommates if you do not get better at resetting and putting your things back where they belong, because they are not going to want to walk into a bathroom that you have taken over with your stuff or whatever it might be. So how do you suggest teaching our kids to be more organized?
So this one always gets me some like backlash. So, which I'm like, I'm prepared for it. So you have to let them own a space. And I say it pretty much like their bedroom is an easy one because you can close the door. So letting them kind of like discover how to organize, what kind of level of mess they can handle. obviously as the parent, you can put in some stipulations like no food, no, whatever you think is like reasonable, but at like a lower the bar. But I once had an in-home client, her daughter's stuff was just coming out of the bedroom, and she's like, she won't listen to me whenever I like say, you got to clean your room, you got to clean your room. She never did. There was always so much pushback. So we came up with this idea that as long as the door can open and close without pushing, then the room would be organized, cleaned, whatever. And there was no food allowed in the room ever at all if she was going to live like this. If she wanted food in her room, nothing could be on the floor. So she came to that realization on her own after she had to, like, she wanted an outfit for school or something. She couldn't find it. Realized clothes on the floor don't make the most sense. Ended up cleaning up her room all on her own accord because something happened to her that made her realize her living situation wasn't working for her. So, but if she didn't have that wiggle room or flexibility, she would never realized why it's important to do those things.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think we would do such a disservice to be going in and cleaning for them, taking care of all these things, robbing them of the opportunity to learn for themselves. And I think probably age plays a big factor in this too. Like I remember times when my kids were younger, asking them to clean their room, asking them to clean their room, asking them to clean their room, and then realizing that just like we get so overwhelmed by an area of the house that is just crazy, and we're avoiding it because we're overwhelmed, so do they. And so I remember realizing like, oh, I need to come in and do this side by side and show you and model it and help you. And then try to help them learn how to maintain it. But I see that need for being flexible of like, if they choose not to, we need to let them have that opportunity versus taking it from them by either doing it for them or, trying to force so hard that it creates. Again, we're back to the conflict when what we really want is peace. Peace. Exactly. Yes. Oh, I love this so much. Okay, so what are your other, what are your go-to, okay, if you're trying to organize, here are the best takeaways that are going to help any of us just be more organized in our homes.
Ooh, okay. Some big things. One, ask yourself, anything you touch or move around or whatever, when was the last time I used this? I'm a big fan of labeling, so I think labels help everyone because there isn't questions about where things go. So labeling a lot of things I think is really helpful, especially kitchen drawers and cabinets, especially if you have teens and you expect them to empty the dishwasher. Put labels on it, put Post-it notes on it. Who cares? Put it on there so they know where things can go, and it will help so much. So labeling is one of my big go-tos. And I also think just knowing it's a journey. Like you said, Leah, it's a journey. It is not, I have to get this done by this date. It's not. Organizing is about being functional. It's about removing the stuff that is no longer serving you, is no longer working for you. Or maybe it's just removing things that have a maybe negative or kind of not so positive interaction with you and your family in that space. There's a lot of times you might have something in your house or in a room that could be better served in a different room, and just moving that to a different space could completely change how an entire room functions. So just looking at how you use the space and knowing every season is going to change. So with the pantry, you could have really young kids that you can keep it all nice and organized, but as soon as they are able to open that door and grab their own snacks, that pantry is going to look way different, and that's okay.
I love that. Okay, so my final question for you is, why does, I really should have started with this one, but that's okay. Why does organization matter for us?
So I am a total I really like studying like the brain and how we process things. So organizing matters because our brain tells stories. That's how it like connects everything that goes on during the day. So when we are organized, our brain is able to connect those stories because it's able to process the environment around us. If you ever notice, like you walk into a room or a house, or even like sometimes libraries do this to me, where there's just like so much and your body just kind of like your shoulders go up, you get a little tense. Your brain then goes into the fight, flight, or freeze. And so it's not able to truly like process what's going around. Where if you create an organized space, no matter what you encounter throughout your day, your brain will be able to process that in your home. And then it's able to like regulate your nervous system, like center you, if you have seasonal depression, those type of things, your body's able to regulate that better. I'm not saying like perfect, but better when you are in an organized state and your environment is organized.
I love that. And I agree wholeheartedly. Like sometimes I'll just recognize I'm feeling a little more stressed, a little, the anxiety levels feel a little raised, and I'll look around and I'm like, I need to clean my space. Or I have a really big project, a big work day, and I'll be like, before I'm jumping into that, I need a completely clear white space because I'm so much more productive. I'm so much more focused. Oh, I love that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think organization, we just feel better. I feel more peaceful, but I love like wrapping this all back to where you started, but each of our version of organization can be different, and it's finding the version that has meaning to us. And then working to create that space so that we can feel more at peace, more productive, more creative, more energetic, all those good things. So good. So good. Okay. I could just talk with you about this forever, but for the sake of our amazing listeners who are like, Leah, I don't have that much time. I am just going to have you on again. And we are going to do this again because I have more sections I want to tackle with you. So that's how we're going to solve this one. So thank you so much for being here. And it has been so amazing. Any final words you want to leave us with?
I will do a shameless plug if you don't mind.
Do it.
If you are into organizing podcasts, my organizing podcast called Organizing Tune-Ups is where we break down big organizing concepts into 5 to 15 minutes where you can do in your home every day. And they're really actionable, really tangible, and they're less than 15-minute episodes. I keep it short because I want you to take action.
I love that. And I'm going to also plug for you your book, which I will have linked everywhere. But it is called Home Sweet Organized Home, Declutter and Organize Your Busy Family by Jessica Litman. You can get it on Amazon. That's where I grabbed it from because I was having her on the podcast and I was like, oh, I should buy her book. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually really good. So,
Thank you.
It's awesome. So I'm gonna plug that for you too. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, how amazing and adorable is she? She is so much fun and so sweet, and she just makes me feel like excited to go organize something. Be honest, I don't actually have anything to organize because we still don't live in our house since the fire, but I will have some major organizational projects when we move back into our house eventually. But for now, some of my biggest takeaways and what I'm most excited about is really recognizing our different versions of organized. I'm thinking about this with my family. I'm thinking about this with my expectations of what I love organized being versus my family's expectation. And just really coming back to, if what I really want is this feeling of calm and peace, then I don't want there to be friction and contention around the very thing I'm trying to create, that which is having an organized home. I am so excited to try her strategy of bins later. I totally always buy the bins first. I don't know if you do that too. I always buy the bins first because I get excited about them. Like, I'm all excited about everything being acrylic and clear. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to test getting everything out, figuring out what I need, and then going and buying the bins. and see how that goes. What are you going to try? And what area are you going to start with? Are you starting with your pantry? Are you starting with the junk drawer? Are you starting with your office? Where are you going to start? But I firmly believe, and I love what she said about, an organized space is a space that is free to be creative, to be happy, to be calm, to be peaceful, to feel rested. I love that. Absolutely love that. So I hope you love this episode, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to take from it. Definitely send me a DM, reply back to an email, let me know what you loved about this episode. And if you could take a moment and leave a 5-star review, that would mean the world as well. Like, absolutely mean the world. Okay, that's it for this time. I'll see you next week.